Alright, gonna get right into it. No intro, no nothing, because I tried doing intros and they both failed. It was one of those things where I was saying something about something, and then I realized that it made no sense because I said this other thing that contradicts what I was just saying. So I was contradicting myself, and yeah. Alright. I Walk with Monsters, Paul Cornell. This was one of those comics I gotta check out every 6 months. So rereads there's 3 criteria for rereads. The first and foremost is I liked it so much I gotta read it again and again. And I say on average every 6 months. This one is definitely more like every 3 months or so. But for whatever reason, this comic kind of forgot about it, kind of, sort of. I don't want to say forgot about it, because that sounds like really, that kind of oversells it. But I wasn't adding it to my my notes app, so I remember what I want to check out from the library. I have lists. And I say, okay, so let's hit this. And I actually have 2, so it's the next time and the following time. So I'm not far ahead. And I'm surprised I never added this one, because this one is really damn good. And even though I've read this consistently enough that someone who's been watching my channel for a year now already probably knows how I felt about this series, I always want to keep reading this consistently, but not too consistent. I don't want to be reading tomorrow. The next time I go to the library, I check it out again. But I think this will end up being an every 2 months, if I remember at least, comic I check out, because this is really damn good. This is definitely top 20 material. This is what indie comics were made for. And I'm gonna say, you hear me say this a lot, but this should be adapted to, honestly, a miniseries would be good to adapt this to. A movie, I feel like, yeah, that could happen too, because this isn't that thick a comic, and it's only a 6-issue miniseries. But I think, and they made each video, they made each episode an hour long. I feel like just doing 6 episodes would be all that the series would need. They kind of stretch out each issue into a little bit more, you need a little bit more context. This comic does not have a whole lot of context, but I don't mind that at all, because I like comics. I don't explain everything to the reader. But I think for a TV show, they would probably, for the sake of drama, they would probably explain certain things or show certain things the comic did not show, because that's what the author wanted. But hopefully I won't do it in a way that's an insult to what the comic wanted to do. But 9.5 out of 10, absolute knockout from Paul Cornell. And Paul Cornell, honestly, so I read Black Widow. I like that enough. I would say it's a little bit above average, but a 7 out of 10. This is 9.5 out of 10. His Doctor Who, I think I gave a 3 out of 10 or 4 out of 10. And then Witches of World War II is a great example of the second criteria for why I do rereads, and that is reread to redeem. I didn't like it the first time for whatever reason, usually because this does end up happening. The second time I'll read it, I'll like it a lot more. Sometimes I have a complete turnaround. Sometimes I'll read it the first time, I hated it, and then completely love it the second time around. That's why I kind of always say, unless I absolutely, this one, I don't think I'll ever change my mind on. But other than that, I could change. If I really hate a comic that anyone else loves, later down the line I'll probably like a lot more. So, you can't dislike this video now. Not that I can see it. Even YouTubers, I can't see dislikes, if I got any, on my YouTube channel of videos. The displays, I get the same exact thing that people get. But I think if I go to YouTube Studio, I can see it. They're displaced. Now, like with I Walk with Monsters, I would absolutely love to see this adapted. And we need to get more adaptations, not just from Marvel and DC. Honestly, I think the whole comic book, I know it's superhero fatigue, but I think the best way to still get the comic book movie adaptations rolling consistently is to just do what novels do. Not every novel adaptation is Lord of the Rings. In fact, we haven't gotten a whole lot of fantasy movies recently. We've gotten a lot of sci-fi recently, sure, but not every movie we get that's adapted from a novel is Dune. So why does every comic book movie that we get adaptations from have to be superheroes? And honestly, it's something I really kind of don't like with the comic book medium too. I feel like, and this one I I don't mind as much with comics as I do with movies, because comics, it can be a lot more, especially from indies, which I was gonna get to the point of. I feel like every other book I pick up from Image or that's coming out from Image is superheroes, and I don't mind that. It's whatever. Sometimes they can be so uh, interesting and investing. I don't care, or so different from the medium and trying to break new ground. All like the boys and Invincible. I think of when I think of like trying to break new ground, and bringing something new to the table, and even something like I can't think of any examples off the top of my head. Wonder Woman by Brian Azzarello. That I can read like, and it's not like superhero. It's more because you said that it's Wonder Woman and it's like Themyscira, and I would say it's more fantasy, but she is still a superheroine, so it still is superhero at the end of the day, regardless of what the storyline is. But that, even by Wonder Woman standards, it's not too terribly different than what it's not like completely different. And Wonder Woman by Brian Azzarello, I'm saying story-wise, it's not completely different than what we get, like structure-wise, formula-wise. And that I can read like again, and I've been reading again and again and again, like really consistently. So it's not the fact that I have superhero fatigue. I think it's just the way that the movies do it. But still, I would like to see something like this place get adapted into a film, so we could get more people to the comic shop to pick up the graphic novel, because I think we need more Image Comics adaptations, not just Invincible, but something like, honestly, Exorcisters I've really liked reading so far, and that's a nice little reprieve from all the serious dark shit that we get, and it'd be a nice little dark comedy. And The Boys, I know, is dark comedy too, and I've seen it so far is dark comedy. Invincible isn't super, at first at least, it isn't super dark, but Exorcisters is a great example. I'll talk more about this when I review it, but Exorcisters has a great way of having the drama and the comedy interline perfectly, or align perfectly. But Displaced, absolutely phenomenal, great pacing, great mystery that had a satisfying conclusion. And usually comics like this, they don't. They want to be more open-ended. And while this one does have an open-ended ending, if you pay attention to what is the details and the things that the characters say and their little theories about what's going on, you kind of come to the conclusion that maybe, just maybe, that's what happened. And then because there's a few characters, I think there's like 6 characters total, there are 2 endings to this book. And I did appreciate that. I mean, each character has an ending, but as far as, without giving too much away, as far as definitive endings go, there's 2 of them. And definitive meaning, like, it has a conclusion. Again, without giving too much away. And that's by Ed Brisson. So, one other little side note is that they don't have a whole lot from Ed Brisson at my local library. And I'm talking interloans. So, I do want to readdress this. When I say local library, say it twice, I mean the library that I go to pick up books. They have, and while the graphic novel section isn't too large, I can find a good amount. Like, if I cut down how much I read per day, I could probably survive at the library for about a few months without doing interloans. For whatever reason, they had to halt interloans. If we had another pandemic, but we could still go, like, locally, like, we can go, like, 20 miles outside of our location, or outside of our homes. I won't say houses, homes sounds a lot better. But we couldn't go 20 miles outside of our homes for whatever reason, and thus the library cannot do interloans anymore. I would probably be fine if I cut down my reading speed, or not reading speed, how much I read consistently, or to add more of my personal collection, whatever. I could, but point is, they don't have the biggest graphic novel collection. So a lot of times I do have to say, oh, this is local library. But as far as interloans go, otherwise local library and interloans library goes, they don't have a whole lot from Ed Brisson for comics. They have this and then a few anthology books he did. One of them being a series I already own in floppy form. Why did I have to go so into detail? I don't know. That was kind of silly. But the point of all that, why I was saying the whole thing, the local libraries, to say there is difference. But even though most of what I get is from other libraries, I do get a good amount from the local libraries. Local libraries is what I was trying to say. So to explain the differences, I did feel like it was necessary. But anyways, yeah, don't have a whole lot from Ed Brisson for whatever reason from any other library. So if I had to pick one, I would probably pick this because this is an absolutely phenomenal Ed Brisson story, or just in his story in general, like comics in general. Again, 9.5 for this. Like with I Walk with Monsters. Lotus Land, another Darcy Van Polgeest. I'm gonna say Polgeest because it sounds very similar to Poltergeist. I'm sure it's something like Poltergeist or something like that. I'm sure I'm botching the pronunciation of his last name. I just like saying Polgeest because it sounds like Poltergeist. It's not because I'm trying to do a joke or anything like that. I'm trying to make fun, but like it's a pun, kind of, sort of. It's just, it's looks like that. That's how I'm gonna say it. But like with Ed Brisson, they don't have local library, Antilones or otherwise, does not have a whole lot from this author. They have this and Little Bird, and I own Little Bird. So nice little connection between the two books. And this one, also like The Displaced, has a really nice mystery, but this one is definitely more confusing than The Displaced was. This is that kind of annihilation, kind of sci-fi. Like A24 would make an absolutely phenomenal adaptation of Lotus Land. It's like those A24 movies. If you don't like that, you're not gonna like this. If you like A24 like me, you'll absolutely love this comic. Now this is more a 8.5 than a 9.5 out of 10, but the pacing is really good. The only real issue I had with this was that I did feel like it didn't, just the feel of it was a bit less than this place. Like I would say that this place had like a more consistent pace than this did, but like very minor. It's just the way that this place was rather than this. I'm not saying, oh well, this comic obviously it's gonna be like that because this is how this comic story is told. No, it was just I felt like you're telling it the same kind of way, but the pacing still felt a bit off, and only a little bit. Like again, like 8.5. Honestly, I go so far as to give this a 9 out of 10. It's very minor, and I just want to mention it just in. Because I did notice it, and I felt like it was worth mentioning. But not too noticeable. If you like sci-fi, you like those kind of mystery sci-fi comics with a missing kid, but it adds more, and there's a lot of lore, and you get to know about the more of the world than you think you would, this is a great pick. The lore isn't too deep, because again, they don't want to. Darcy doesn't want to tell too much about the story, much like how Paul Cornell with I Walk with Monsters doesn't want to. But you do get to know a little bit about a good amount about the characters. A good way to explain the pacing for both The Displaced and Lotus Land was that I think each issue was a bit longer than the average issue is. I didn't really feel the length, especially The Displaced. Less so with Lotus Land in comparison to The Displaced, but on its own, Lotus Land had that feeling of I thought this page, like, if it was 32 pages, it felt like it was 22 pages or less. Might as well do this because this is you'll understand why I'm reviewing volume 1 of a 3-volume series I'm gonna be finishing all of and then giving you my you'll understand why I'm doing that when I tell you about Black Widow. Now Black Widow, this is a reread, and definitely this is a reread because I loved it to death. And Black Widow completely complete knockout. First 5 issues. This should honestly be a miniseries in it of itself. And this storyline is kind of unique for Black Widow. Like, it's not too unique. They have done this kind of thing before, but it's done in a way that's so damn unique. A nice little twist that even my second reread, it still was engaging. That mystery of, like, what's going on. Even though I knew what was going on, there was a few details that I forgot with my most recent reading of the series. So it still had that, like, engaging, like, page-turning feel to it that I did the first time. And definitely Kelly Thompson's, so far, this at least is my favorite thing that Kelly Thompson has written I've read. Next to her one issue of Silvercoin. And 9 out of 10 for Black Widow. Lando by... This is Double Nothing. Lando Double Nothing's the Rodney Barnes one, not the Charles Soule one. I'm sure not the only one, because there's two series of Lando, two miniseries. I think they're also both 6-issue miniseries. But this is it's a Rodney Barnes one. And I don't think I'm going to check out the Charles Soule one. This character, Lando was written really annoying here. And I know he's probably supposed to be that type of character, that kind of like narcissistic, very self-centered character, cares about himself and all that, and thinks he's above everybody else. But it hits you over the head with it. It's like, I'm not saying it needs to be subtle. Like, I'd rather have it be subtle, but it keeps doing it. It's like that joke that just doesn't get, like, that gets old after the second time it's told, but they tell it 5,000 times. That's this comic. But the story is engaging enough, and it kept my interest for 6 issues, so it wasn't that much to read. But I will not be reading this again anytime soon. It's 6 out of 10. Because again, the story is really good. And it doesn't, as it goes along, and when it like completely halts it and doesn't do that anymore, or does it like a little bit here and there because it's organically, it does show its strengths, to be fair. And Rodney Barnes, again, he knows how to keep the reader's interest. I'll give him that. Astonishing Ant-Man. Just generic superhero fare. Very much a 5.5 out of 10. As I say 6 out. Nah, 5.5. It just barely hits that decent. It's just standard, average, borderline boring superhero fare. I'll not be reading this one anytime soon. Nick Spencer is worthy of a lot more. His Avengers World is a lot better than this is, and honestly, Avengers World is more forgettable. Just think of how much Avengers World is. It's a thick-ass trade paperback complete collection, and it just they throw a lot at you, but that's more engaging because of how much they throw at you for Avengers World. This is just standard. I know it's Ant-Man, how much can you tell, but Zeb Wells' storyline was pretty good. Like, it was standard too, but it was at least had more flavor to it. This was like eating a burger without anything on it. Like a complete nothing burger comic. And a nothing burger, I think, is a bit harsh, but it's like eating that burger with no toppings whatsoever, not even ketchup. You're eating it plain. Plain burger, I guess you could say. Thor by Donny Cates. I really hate to say this, and it's going to be a huge unpopular opinion. I'm very glad that they didn't have more than just the first volume of Donny Cates' run. I will sleep easy, I'll not lose any sleep, knowing that I can only read the first volume of Thor by Donny Cates, unless I want to spend money on it, which, not really. This one didn't engage me as much as it did others, and not nearly as much as his Venom run did. If I had to pick a Donny Cates series to be complete at the local library, hell, even the omnibus of, especially if they had King in Black too, I'd pick Venom. Because that is really engaging. This was just alright. If you like something that feels like it comes from yesterday, like a pacing of yesteryear comics, but the modern storytelling, they didn't like go too cheesy, hammy here as like Silver Age and like 80s comics would do. So if you want something that feels more modern but also feels like yesteryear, especially as far as the pacing goes, this will scratch that itch. But this one just felt like it was kind of really slow to me, and I kind of was happy to finally finish this comic. I hate to be so harsh about it, but definitely not one I'll be reading anytime soon. But again, like I said, I think in this cut, I've done a complete turnaround of Law of Comics, so time will tell if I end up looking a lot more. Great example is Cable and Deadpool. This one took me forever to get into, but the most recent time I read this entire series, I absolutely adored it. Complete turnaround. It went from a 4 out of 10 to an 8 out of 10, and it retains its 8 out of 10. Honestly, 8.5. I probably did give it an 8.5. One of the best Deadpool runs of all time, and one of the best team-up books of all time too. Absolutely phenomenal stuff. If you like Deadpool 2 and you want to see Cable and Deadpool interact, this is a good place to go. This volume definitely is, I would say, so that's why I should say it's an 8 out of 10 more than 8.5, because this volume is a bit weak. Has that kind of storyline, it's a bit too ridiculous at times and a bit kind of strange, but this time around I didn't think it was that much, but it's definitely one that I was like, oh yeah, volume 1 is this, the most recent time I read the series. But it gets really damn good. And here it's still like an 8 out of 10. Like, I'd only give it, like, the whole entire series, I'd probably give it a 9 out of 10. This is more like an 8 to 8.5. Yeah, whole entire series I give it like a 9. No, let's go far. 9.5. Whole entire series to 9.5 out of 10. This is a 8.5. It's still really damn good, a really strong start, but has a really strange storyline that I wasn't super on board with. This time around, I was more on board with it, but still one of those books that, one of those comics that has it's a kind of weird, very weird start to it. The Flash by Brian Buccellato is pretty good. I got on record to say this most recent reread, I was kind of getting sick of it by volume 3. Like, kind of sick as in, I just wasn't feeling like I usually, like I was before. And I say by volume 2, not volume 3, I was feeling that. And this gets back to the momentum that I remember it being. But also has some instances of that, oh yeah, that kind of like, maybe it's not as good as I remember it being kind of feel. Even though it hasn't been that long since my most recent reread of this series. But still, this I could totally see this getting someone else into Flash comics, the same that got me into Flash comics. And Flash is a character too. So I want to say that it was at least the first Flash run I read all the way through. Not the first Flash comic, but definitely the first Flash run I read all the way through. And it definitely got me into the character, and I was added to my like little pull list, if you will. Like, I was like, oh, this Flash 750, let's pick this up. Oh, Flash this, let's pick that up. But I haven't picked up a whole lot of Flash, honestly, after that. But it was definitely like if there's a Flash series like a Columbine, I'd pick it up. I went without a hesitation because of Brian Buccellato's run. Batman Secret Files. This one I'm going to review a bit differently because I'm going to review each issue as itself, as its own thing. So, we have the Tony Patrick issue. That was awful. Like, complete, boring tripe. 3 out of 10. It was confusing, too. Like, it was just all over the place, a mess. Complete mess. More of a mess than confusing. The Riku Tamaki was a bit better, but very much a 6 out of 10. The Ed Brisson stories were really damn good. There's one that's co-written by James Tynion that's also really damn good. Those were knockouts in the James Tynion stories all around. So half of this? No. More than half of this comic, this graphic novel, is phenomenal stuff. But overall, I give it an 8 out of 10. Solid 8 out of 10. The Ed Brisson story, the one that was my favorite out of here, the Clown Hunter, so actually I can go in here. So the Signal was the Tony Patrick one, that was completely awful. Then you had the Huntress series, and that one was a bit better, but not too great, 6 out of 10. And that was written by Riku Tamaki. Then you had the Batman Secret Files Clown Hunter, and that one was written by Ed Brisson, like, completely written by Ed Brisson, no co-author, no nothing. And that one was absolutely phenomenal. I want to say Peacekeeper was not co-written by him. I don't know. But let's say it was written by himself. That one's also really damn good. I give both, honestly, a 9 out of 10. They were, really engaging. The Secret Files is, 40 pages. It's double the length of your average Batman story. And especially Peacekeeper. I didn't notice the length at all. It felt like it was more like 30 pages when the average comic is 22 rather than 45 pages. And I think it was, I don't know how many pages it was, but you did feel the length. The Signal, I felt every page. That was awful pacing. Huntress was a bit better the pace, again, 6 out of 10. But everything else afterward was phenomenal. Miracle Molly was also really damn good. That was all written by James Tynion. Again, that felt more like an average comic length than your standard, your double-sized length kind of thing that this one was. But unfortunately, and I'm glad I checked all these issues and reviewed them one by one, the Gardener is honestly kind of boring. Because they just tell you a bunch of shit that you already know. And it's a story told to Batman, who knows everything he needs to know about Poison Ivy. But for whatever reason, this comic absolutely wastes 15 to 20 pages. And by the time you get to the actual story, you're burned out, you don't care anymore. And honestly, that was probably next to Signal, the weakest story in this 6-issue miniseries. Of one-shots. And The Signal, I would give like a more like a, again, as I said, like a what, 3 out of 10, 4 out of 10. Miracle Molly, I would give like a 4.5 out of 10. Like a little better than The Signal, but not by much. Overall, an 8 out of 10 is a recommend. This, skip the Signal issue. But also, maybe don't take any word for it. But it's one I kind of say, like, you could skip it and not miss a whole lot at all. Deathbed. Now, some comics I have complete turnaround with. This one I like a little bit more. Like, I probably give it like a 5 out of 10 or a 4 out of 10 when I first read it. I give it like a 6 out of 10. A solid 6. It's good. Joshua Williamson, his indie books seem to be good enough, but not great. 6 out of 10, it's good enough. If you like Joshua Williamson's writing, you'll love this. I just haven't been too terribly impressed by anything he's written yet. Transmetropolitan, Warren Ellis's magnum opus. This comic will never not be relevant. Absolute phenomenal, absolute must read. It's a stutter. I did actually recommend this one to a coworker of mine who, while she does not read graphic novels, she is very politically inclined, like very into politics, like super into politics. As much as I'm into comics, she's twice that much into politics. I would go so far as to say that. So I did recommend her this, and she said check it out. I wonder if she would. I wonder if she actually will. I mean, remember that, I mean. Not necessarily say, oh, I will check it out, yeah, just to humor me. No, just if she'll remember, check it out. But 9 out of 10. Sandman Universe, Nightmare County is solid enough. Pacing-wise, it's not consistently paced at all, but it is still engaging. I still want to see where everything ended, and I will definitely be picking up Volume 2. But I'm kind of glad I gave it a pace of 1 volume per visit, and not all 12 issues at once. 7 out of 10. 7.5 out of 10. Oh, and James Tynion. And James Tynion, like, this is where he's the most comfortable with writing. This is where he can write his magnum opus. This is his bread and butter. His horror. And honestly, I do think it's another great example of that. But I would say go read like Silver Coin or something that's killing children. But if you want something that's not 80 issues, like something that's killing children is, and you also don't want something that's just 1 issue, like how Silver Coin is, because while it is 15 issues, it's one-shot issues. Then I would say this isn't the worst place to go to, but there probably are a bunch of other places you could go to. But this, pick it up. Definitely worth a read. Again, 6 and above is a recommend. 5 and below is like 5 is like on discount, and then 4 and below is don't check it out at all. Or like if you can get it for free, I guess check it out, but not recommend. 4 and below is not recommend. Wonder Woman, like I said before, this is Brian Azzarello's run, and this is one of the. I'm going to say the same thing I said when I showed this off that I was reading it, because it's stay consistent and will never be this. But this will always be one of the best runs on a character I've read of all time. And I say character because I'm just saying in general. In general, this is one of the best superhero comic runs of all time. Absolutely phenomenal. Check it out. A must read. 9.5 out of 10. Honestly, 10 out of 10. Night Terrors is decent and fair. It did make me want to check out the spin-offs. And that's go with a lot to say. So because of that reason, and it is really engaging, 8 out of 10. Joshua Williamson should do more horror. And finally, last but not least, is Kanto. Just as good as it was the first time. Really damn captivating. David M. Booher puts his blood, sweat, and tears into his comic, and it pays off phenomenally. Absolute recommend, high recommend, 9 out of 10. And that, as they say, is that. I gotta make sure that I don't take any books with me that aren't library books. I think it was just Black Widow that wasn't. Which is kind of weird to think about, because it's like, I thought there was more than just that one book. But I'm flipping through them. Yeah, no, these are all these are library books. So a nice little stack to return. And 2 more that I did not review because they're image books. I don't review the image books until the end of the month. I want to keep it consistent. And also, it's a nice way, and that was just last month I decided to do that. And honestly, moving forward, that's what I'm going to do. Nice way to keep it consistent and keep it organized too. But that, as I say, is that. For the sake of getting organized, for the sake of playlists and whatever else. But yeah, that, as I say, is that. It's a 30-minute video, but I'm going like, what, 15 plus comics? Again, nice little stack.